Hello and welcome into the Rock for Him podcast. I got to tell you, this is going to be an exciting show for us tonight. And if you happen to be watching on our Facebook Live and you want to send in a question, just go ahead and put it in the comments and we will answer it right here live on the air. Gotta tell you, since we've started this has been awesome. Like, I've had so much fun doing these live Facebook podcasts. Oh, hang on one second here. All right. Still there?
Yep, we're here.
Okay. Sorry, it looked like it cut out for a second. But anyways, joining me today, first up is my good friend, my brother in Christ, Mr. Jeremy Brown. Jeremy, what's going on, brother?
I'm excited. This is my favorite day of the week.
Man, I love Mondays. Next up, the guest of honor from the band Spoken, Matt Baird. Yeah, how do you say it?
I've heard all. I've heard every pronunciation. It's Baird.
Baird.
Yeah.
And Jeremy told me that, and I knew I was going to say it wrong anyways. I always do.
That's fine. People, it doesn't matter if I tell them 5 seconds later they call me something else, so it's fine.
Try having the last name like Bukowski. I have heard many different variations.
Yeah.
So, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and about the band?
My name is Matt Baird. I have been in a band for 28 years. The band is called Spoken, and yeah, I can't believe I get to play music. I can't believe every day when I wake up, I can't believe I get to play music. And a band with some really, really cool guys, really funny guys, musicians that are far better than I will ever hope to be or dream to be. And so, yeah, I'm married to Tiffany. We've been married for 21 years. We have 3 kids, Jackson, Hudson, and Vivian. And yeah, I can't believe God allows me to do what I get to do.
That's awesome.
So, where are you guys from?
Well, the band started in Northwest Arkansas in 1996, but within I would say within 5 years after we started touring, we started marrying people in other states, and so there's not a person at all from the band currently that lives in Northwest Arkansas anymore. So I live in Des Moines, Iowa. 2 of the guys, Dylan and JR, live in Phoenix, Arizona, and then Jared lives in Pittsfield, Massachusetts. So getting together to tour is fun for sure. It's a lot of driving and a lot of flying. So,
hey, real quick, I am going to restart our live stream because it just kicked us off Facebook. So we can keep talking. I'm just letting you guys know what's going on.
Okay. But yeah, we haven't lived in the same state in probably, at least 22 years, something like that. So we've been scattered. And the thing is, there's a lot of bands that none of them live in the same state anymore. Like, everyone is they're scattered. And so in order to be able to remain in a band, when it comes to writing music, that can be a challenge. But yet, the capabilities that people have to record stuff, even with their cell phone, and record an idea to send to other people, it works out really good. But yeah, it's just a juggle when we have shows. We're not able to just do like one-off shows. It doesn't make sense for us. So we try to route shows together and at least go out for 3 or 4 shows at a time. Because if we can't, we're like losing money leaving our house, and that doesn't really help a lot.
Right.
Yeah. So one thing that we always ask all of our guests is your testimony and how you came to know Christ. Would you mind sharing yours?
Yeah. I used to think that skateboarding is what I would do with my life. And so starting 12 years old, I got a skateboard, but I also got an acoustic guitar that my dad brought home from a garage sale that he bought on the way home from work. And so I didn't like the way the strings felt on my fingers. So I immediately was like, nah, I don't think so with guitar. So I kept skateboarding, which I mean, I got hurt a whole lot worse skateboarding every day than I would just playing guitar. But skateboarding is what, I really thought I wanted to do. And so Jeff, who is one of the founding members of Spoken, he and I grew up together, and that's all we did. Like we would skateboard constantly. Anyway, one day I was skateboarding outside a church in Lowell, Arkansas. It was across the street from where I lived. And I got a kid asked if he could see my board, and he did a trick that I was learning at the time and invited me into this building where they're having something called a potluck dinner. And so I went in, I experienced my first potluck dinner. It changed my whole life. And then I don't know, I went to church for about a month, every Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday evening for youth group, and realized that I wanted to know who Jesus was. I wanted to know who this Jesus was that they talked about. And that they said, "Want you to know that Jesus loves you and has a plan for your life." And that's I was all in. And so I didn't know music was going to be part of that plan. I was fully convinced it would be skateboarding. So 19 years old, out of high school and still skateboarding and unsure of what I was supposed to be doing, and taking community college classes and doing really poorly at those. And it was just, we felt like God was like, "Hey, why don't you start a band and tell people the same thing that you were told 5 years ago, that Jesus loves you, and he has a plan for your life." And so we've been able to use music to do that for 28 years now.
That's awesome.
That is really awesome.
I got to tell you, Spoken was one of the first bands that I had heard about when I became a Christian. Shortly after I was saved, I started a different podcast, and we had one band on, and it was Righteous Vendetta. And you guys have played with them. And we have a mutual friend, Isaiah Perez.
Yeah.
And I remember he went to play with you guys, and I had reached out to him trying to get you guys on the show. I was like, "Isaiah, bro, hook me up. Come on, get him on the show." Never heard back from him, but still, we have that connection. Like, you guys are one of the first bands that I heard as a Christian, as a newly saved Christian. So thank you for your music.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. That's a cool story. Yeah. Yeah, we have a long history with Righteous Vendetta, and I wish they were still touring. I wish they were still.
Yeah.
I wish we could still go on tour with them and laugh at them constantly. I mean, great band, but hilarious guys.
Oh, they used to stay at my house every time they were in Michigan. Like,
Yeah.
My neighbors knew that if their van pulled up, don't call the cops. They're not there to rob the place. They're just there to hang out. So yeah, great guys. But back to you, though, Jeremy.
So one of the things that I love about you and your music is it's so transparent. Like, who do you draw your inspiration from, musically, lyrically?
I mean, musically, it's all over the board. I'm quite the channel surfer when I'm driving, because I drive a lot. Like, I drive very long distances for shows, and so once I'm kind of over any kind of podcast thing, where it's like podcasts are kind of hit and miss with me, because sometimes I'm really like in tune with it, and other times it just starts to become numbing. I don't know why. Yeah. But it's the same with music. Like, sometimes I'll always go to like 80s. I'll go to the 80s rock and roll. I'll go to hair bands. But I also enjoy country music. I enjoy pop. My children, they really love Christian rap, and so I've heard a whole lot of that recently, and I have a whole new respect, for that. I mean, because for years and years when it came to Christian rap, it was DC Talk. And I love DC Talk. I still do. I listen to them on the road often. But for a long time, that was Christian rap to me, and early on it was, artists like T-Bone, and we were on a label that had K2S on there. Rod Laver, which would fall into rap. I mean, it was rap rock or whatever, but I try to draw inspiration from lyrics from all aspects of life, conversations that I have with people. A lot of times it's conversations I have with my wife, because she's just a lot smarter than I am, and she's able to I think also, like, when it comes to verbalizing stuff, I think she's better at it than I am. I write lyrics about frustration, about being confused. A lot of it's stuff that most people want to ask Jesus, and they're not sure how to put it in words, or they feel like they can't ask God that, where it's like, what are you talking about? He knows everything. He already knows what you're feeling. He already knows what you're thinking. He knows every element of your being. But I mean, musically, it's kind of all across the board. Lyrically, it's with any opportunity that I have to write something about, life situations. But I really like, sometimes I'll listen to the radio and I'll have it down at a really low volume where you can't really tell what song is on, but yet at moments you'll hear a melody or what you think you're hearing. And so then I'll make a voice memo of it. I'm like, well, that's a cool melody. Like, that could be cool. I mean, I remember one time driving through Kentucky. I've been driving forever, so I was probably a little bit delirious as well. But like, it was at 2 a.m. I was listening to Living Sacrifice, and there was a phrase that I thought I heard, Bruce say in the lyrics. I checked it out. I made sure that was back when we had like a Walkman disc player plugged in through, with a cassette player adapter.
Yep.
I listened to it again. It wasn't at all what he said, but it's what I thought he said. And so I jotted it down. I wrote it in the atlas, actually. It was back when we would tour and have a paper atlas. And so I wrote it in there and ended up being in a song later on. So I think inspiration can come from anything, everywhere.
That's why I love doing this show, getting to hear stories like that. You thought you heard a lyric, you were inspired by it. It wasn't the lyric, so you wrote it down. You're like, it's mine now. I like it.
Yeah, I'm so glad it wasn't. I'm so glad it wasn't what, Bruce said in the lyrics, because then I got to use it. So,
right.
But I remember it was a phrase. I wrote it down. It was like, why do we open our eyes and sleep? I think it's in a song of ours called A Question Alone, maybe something like that. It's from years ago. I don't know.
I like that. So first off, you're right. The women are way much smarter than us, so we should always pay attention to what they're saying. So, babe, if you're watching, I understand. And second, when you're out on the road, when you're out on the road and you're touring and you're playing all these shows, how do you stay connected with God? What is that thing that you do that just keeps you grounded and connected?
I mean, I spent a whole lot of time talking to him because life is confusing. People are confusing. Being in the middle of an 18-hour drive, you're halfway there and you're like, are you serious? What am I doing? This is my life. This is what I'm driving 18 hours to play an acoustic show and then turn around and drive home. So during those time frames, you do spend a lot of time talking to God about it. I also believe that he speaks to me pretty loudly in sunrise and sunset, and I see a lot of those. Sometimes I see sunrise and sunset in the same day on the same drive. I love his creation. I love scenery, rivers, streams, fields. I'm great with wildlife too. If it's in the middle of the day and it's not waiting to try to cross the road in front of me, I'm great with that. I find myself listening to a lot of worship music on the road. I seek out sermons, like older sermons, often on YouTube to listen to while driving. Sometimes it's podcast. It's just trying to have conversations with people that understand, whether that be with my wife or with different pastors or youth pastors on the road. A lot of times it's conversations with guys in bands. A lot of times it's conversations with promoters that have done shows for us and they just kind of keep up. They're like, hey, thinking about you. How you doing? What's going on? Because that's a big part of the phone calls that I have on the road, are people kind of checking in, seeing what's going on.
We have our first comment from someone listening. It's Jermaine Nixon. Jermaine, brother, how's it going? First, he says, those are some wild concepts, but totally worth it when you think of it at the end. It's awesome. So, yeah, I mean, I agree. When you're out on the road and you're just seeing God's glory, how could you not be in tune with him? Honestly.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's easy to get frustrated for sure with stuff. And, you have a conversation with someone who they have no tact whatsoever. And you're like, I cannot believe that person just said that. And it has happened so many times, and it could be Christians, it could be non-Christians, it could be pastors, it could be whatever. It's like sometimes they open their mouth and there's no filter. Yep. They just say something. You're like, what in the world? That's crazy. And so there are conversations you kind of have to try to just let roll off, and don't think too much into it. But I don't know. I mean, people that come to shows and they talk about songs and how it's affected them and how it's encouraged them, or the same story with what you're saying is like one of the first Christian bands that we, started listening to when we came to know Jesus. Like, that's a big deal. Like I remember who I started listening to, and it was Petra. It was Bloodgood. It was White Cross, White Heart. It was Stephen Curtis Chapman, Michael W. Smith, Brian Duncan. It was all of these different artists of different genres.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, the very first Christian band I listened to was Righteous Vendetta. I became a Christian, and all I grew up with my family that was Christian was listening to like K-Love, and to me that was almost like a Jesus is my boyfriend type of music. It's all carry me Jesus, hold my hand Jesus, and I was like, oh, I don't know if I could do that. Like, I don't know if I can listen to this music every day. And then the show I had started was called Genesis to John the Revelator. On iTunes, I see their song, John the Revelator, and I listen to it, and I'm like, these guys are Christian, and the lyrics are straight up, like, gospel-driven. And then that just started my passion for, Christian metal. I was like, thank you, Lord. And then I discovered bands like Spoken, like Skillet, like Tricord, like, all these bands that they have music with a message. And that's what is so important nowadays.
Yeah.
So on top of Spoken, you're also a worship leader. Like, you only have the one worship CD out, right?
Yeah. Keeper of My Heart is the only actual CD that's recorded and out. But yeah, I travel a lot as an acoustic artist, doing guest worship at churches. I mean, with the acoustic situation, I can kind of play anywhere, play bars, churches, wineries, breweries, living rooms, backyards, a lot of like recovery events that it fits in well just doing acoustic. I love it. I really love it because people often ask, like, do I like doing spoken better or, acoustic stuff? And I mean, the answer is I love both. I love both. They're so different. But my wife made a great point a few years ago. She was like, people wouldn't have a clue who you are with you doing anything acoustic or worship if it wasn't for spoken, because that most of them know you because of spoken. And so I think the cool thing is now is like, because I've toured so much as an acoustic artist, that I can kind of be the guinea pig when it comes to playing places. Like, you have these people that they really want to start doing shows, but they're not sure how to host a show and have a full band and deal with everything to do with promotion and staging and sound requirements and lights and all this stuff. I'm like, well, cool. I'll just come play. I can play anywhere. I can play in a lobby. I can play in your living room. I can play in a parking lot. I can be the guinea pig and kind of introduce people to what, we could do. And then we'll go from there. And that's been really, really cool because a lot of shows that Spoken has played in the past couple of years has been because I've done an acoustic show in that town. And they're like, oh, cool, it could work. And I mean, it gives people an opportunity to meet me and see that I'm not completely insane. That way they're not like, oh, there's 4 insane guys rolling up,
Uh,
Hey.
So I want to talk to you a little bit about your worship music. What is your favorite worship song to play? What is that one song that you're just like, if I play nothing else tonight, I need to play this, and it just gets you in that spiritual, worshiping God mood?
Yeah. I mean, the answer to that will always be someone else's song. It would be, I mean, currently I would say playing Gratitude by Brandon Lake is probably, it's a huge song. People know it. The lyrics are great. Every detail about it, and people are familiar. They're familiar with that song. And I think it also ties in pretty good where the fact that when I tell people how grateful I am that I can still play music and that anyone comes to shows, whether it be a Spoken show or a Matt Baird acoustic show or them agreeing to have me come and do guest worship, whatever, like it's amazing that anyone returns phone calls, text messages, anything to be like, yeah, we'd love to have you. That's still, every time that happens, I'm like, that is so cool. That doesn't get old. That's not something that's never annoying, and so like that's what I do. A lot of my drives are me calling churches or coffee shops or asking people like, hey, would you know anyone that might be interested in hosting a show or maybe an event that has room for some tunes, like it could be anything. And so I'm always grateful when people say yes, or they return a call, even if they're like, hey, we'd love to have you sometime. It's not the right time, but someday. And so I think Gratitude probably, but then again, I love Phil Wickham's stuff. He writes great songs. He has a great voice. I love like I do a hymns medley where it's like, it's just hymns of like, these are songs that I first heard when I first started going to a Baptist church in Lowell, Arkansas. And like, I didn't realize how much I loved hymns until I started touring, and I missed them, and they definitely stand the test of time.
I was going to say, when you said earlier that the church you went to had a potluck and that's what drew you in, I was going to say it has to be a Baptist church because we love us some potlucks.
Yes,
Yeah.
we do. Yes.
Yeah. I talk about potlucks a lot, so
I'm all about them.
I love food. So.
Right.
And one of these days we will have you here. I know we tried getting you here not too long ago and it just didn't work out, but we're still working on it and we will have you guys up here one way or another.
Where are you at? You're in Michigan?
Yeah, we're up near Flint.
Okay. Well, let's keep trying,
Yeah, we're trying. We're trying to build a scene up here. It's slow going, but
it's getting there.
Yep, it is. So I'm gonna steal one of Jason's questions. If there was an artist who showed up at your door and said, "Put everything in the van or the bus. You're coming with us," and you can't say no to it, who would that be and why?
Christian band, non-Christian band, it doesn't matter.
Either one. Either one.
I mean, I think there's a lot of them, I can mention some. How about more than one? I don't think there's one. That doesn't exist. That's not real. That's not real at all. I mean, I would love it if Thrice showed up at my door and like, hey, let's go. Cause I would love to see Thrice at least once in my life. Cause I haven't got to see them. 30 Seconds to Mars would be great. Like I would love to see Jared Leto attempt to sing those notes every night. Cause I know how hard those are, I'm like, oh, that'd be really cool. I would love to go out with Living Sacrifice again. I'd love to go out with Stavesacre again. I would love to go out with Sent by Ravens again. That would be amazing.
Apparently, you're naming off everyone that's watching's favorites. They're all, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. You're running down my list.
I mean, there's just a lot. I mean, there's a lot. There's a lot of bands that we've played with over the years that we really enjoyed being on tour with. Like, I mean, they were just one. We learned a lot from them. Disciple is the first band that ever took us on any amount of shows together. Like, we had a tour that basically completely canceled, and they're like, we had never heard of them, didn't know who they were. But that was back 3-piece days, and they're like, well, where do you go after this? I'm like, I don't know. We have like a week off, so we're probably just going to hang out. I was like, why don't you go with us? And so we did. We went with them. We played 2 shows in Pennsylvania, 2 shows in Maryland. And that was the first actual tour with another band that we went on, obviously going out with Demon Hunter was one of the best tours we ever went on, but on that also Zao was on it. And that was incredible. August Burns Red opened that tour. That was in 2006. Obviously things are different with August Burns Red now. People would just literally fall over dead to be able to play a show with them. But yeah, just there's a lot. And of course I'm on the spot, so it makes it hard to
Right.
That's what we do. We like to keep it interesting and put you on the spot.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you the last time that I saw you guys play, you opened for Red on the Gone tour. So it was you guys, Disciple, and Random Hero all opening for Red. It was at the shelter in Detroit.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
That was a killer show. I mean, you guys blew me away. I mean, I'd seen Disciple a few times before that, and they always put on a good show, and got to meet the guys in Random Hero, and then Red's among one of my favorite bands. So anytime they've ever been to Michigan, I don't miss a show.
Yeah.
So
That was a long time ago. You said that was the last time you saw us?
that was the last time I saw Spoken Live. Yep.
That's crazy.
That was.
And I'm still waiting to see Spoken Live, so you got to come here to Michigan.
Right.
That's crazy too.
It is crazy.
Really crazy. And we need to talk more about it. We need to talk more about the possibility of Spoken playing up there. Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, sure.
do you guys have a space? Do you have a
That
spot?
was
Do you
a
have a
rock-
room?
That was a problem we ran into with this time. Is we had a spot and it kind of fell through, and then we were like scrambling to try and find another location. Everyone kept telling us there's not enough time.
The place that we had been booking concerts at closed up shop, went out of business right before Christmas. So that took our space away. So we are currently looking for a new venue. We have a lot of feelers out there, including the Machine Shop, which I know you had to have heard of the Machine Shop.
I've heard of it. I've seen hats all over the place. We've never played it, but
I think you guys would be amazing for the Machine Shop if we can get that show together. Expect a phone call, because
that'd be cool.
That would be. You are one of the bands that immediately came to mind when I heard we had an option of possibly getting in the Machine Shop. I'm like, Spoken, got to get these guys up here.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So we got a comment here from Jermaine. He said, I'm also still waiting to see Spoken Live. I've been a fan since 2014. Through It All was the song that got me hooked.
That's cool. Yeah.
Nice.
So we've talked a lot about, who would you want to go on tour with? Who was like your favorite band to go on tour with? Who is just one that you just love? Like every time they ask you, you're like, yes. I I just I,
You can go. I don't know what you're going to say, but you can go ahead and say it.
I was just gonna say, who's that favorite band to play with? Like you're just like, oh, my boys are calling me and they're gonna have me on tour with them. And then where's your favorite place to play?
Um, favorite. I mean, normally we're bugging other people about going on tour. We're bugging them. So it's like when they're like, "Hey, they're calling." I mean, it's always great touring with 7 Day Slumber. I mean, they're just incredibly nice people. Like they they travel with amazing sound and lights, and they make bands look bigger than they are. They make bands sound better than they sound. Um, but I don't know. I don't know the answer. I don't know the answer to that. I mean, other than that, I mean, we love going out with them. Like they always take care of us. It's always the shows are great. But it's the same with Disciple. I mean, anytime we tour with them, um, it's just we've done so few like actual tours recently. Like since COVID happened, it's all we just play with a few people here and there. But I used to really love touring with Kings Down. They're a band from Little Rock. Loved going on tour with them. Um, you know, Currently or recently or whatever, I would say Chaotic Resemblance because they're so nice. They're so nice, and there's no trying to decipher what are they about at all. I love that.
The reason I'm chuckling here is because you may or may not know that we have a couple members of another band on, and they said, cough, cough, it'd be cool to see you guys tour with Tricord, cough, cough. So,
Oh,
Yes.
we're trying to play with them. I'm pretty sure in Georgia. I think, unless I'm confused on the band, I can't see. I only see who's talking. Like,
yeah. Yeah, that's why I keep looking to the side because I've got it over here on my side screen. I'm watching people comment.
Yeah, like if touring was more, um, if we could actually tour more often, like with bands, like because one of the things that's missing so much is newer bands or bands that we have never met, or maybe bands that have always wanted to tour, they've never had that opportunity. Local bands, there's such a shortage in local bands to be able to add to shows. Um, but I miss that because there used to be 5 bands in every city trying to jump on every show, and we were doing that too. We're like, hey, could we play? Could we play? Because that's how I met my wife, is us trying to play at Frank's House of Rock in Des Moines, Iowa, over and over and over again. Because we'd be driving through, and we're like, well, they always do shows. Maybe we could show up anyway. Probably the 5th or 6th time we played there is when I finally met my wife there. Like she did all the booking for the bands that I just never met her. I didn't know.
Nice.
Nice.
So with the question that's like your favorite place to play, it would have been Frank's House of Rock in Des Moines, Iowa, but it's been gone for over 2 decades. So
I think we've had a couple other bands mention that same place. If I remember
yeah,
back, like some of our earlier episodes.
It's truly amazing, and the legacy that was left by it, people talk about it all the time, Because I have people that have no idea, that we ever played there or my history with it, and they're like, "Did you guys ever play? It's in Des Moines, Iowa. It's called Frank's House of Rock." I'm like, "Yeah, we played there a lot."
Nice. So I also wanted to say congratulations on getting signed to Brian Head Welch's Crossover Records. I mean, that's huge. And I can only assume that your connection is because of JR, right?
Yeah. Well, because of when we toured with Brian back when it was on one of JR's first tours ever with Brian, and that's when we met JR, 15-year-old JR, on the road with Brian. And so that was that. And then later on, we had JR come fill in with us. He filled in on a Norma Jean tour. That'd be a band I'd love to go out with again because every show was incredible. And I just love that band. I think they're great. But we met JR on that tour. Well, we took JR on that tour with us. And then he joined Islander, and he was with Islander for a while. And during that time, I stayed in contact with him. And so when he left Islander, I'm like, dude, why don't you just come tour with us as long as you want? And so he did. And he came out and joined the band. And then we had kind of, because with Love and Death, they're trying to figure out another record. And so JR and I would talk about Love and Death record all the time. And I'm like, I hope you never finish a record, because if you do, you guys will go on tour, you'll be gone. He's like, no, man, never leaving. I'm never leaving. So that's when we, kind of, it was more, I was able to be around Brian a little more. But it's still nerve wracking being around him, because he is Brian from Korn,
I can only imagine.
It's really hard. And I tell him that. I'm like, it's so weird to be in the room with you. He's like, stop being nice. I'm like, I'm just saying, it's hard. But JR and I, we had mentioned it to Brian a while ago about starting a label, and he's like, no. And it ended up happening, and kind of crazy. It's really crazy, because 14-year-old me, would have never imagined anything to do with Brian ever. And so, again, I say it all the time, God's plan is way different than what mine is and what I think mine's going to be. His plan's always better.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I hung out with Brian a few weeks ago out in Bakersfield for a bit. I'm going to see him tomorrow. And we'll just see how all this goes. And it's really exciting. It really is.
If you happen to drop our podcast name and say, hey, there's these two dorks that would love to talk to you, we wouldn't be mad at it.
I'll try my best.
But we would honestly be remiss if we didn't talk to you about your new music you guys got coming out. Like, I think you guys just released 2 new songs, and you got more coming out, I think I seen. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so Reflection came out first. So that's the name of the record. It was the first single. But yeah, Reflection, and then Anymore with Brian on it. We have a song coming out with Ryan Clark from Demon Hunter. And then, there's another music video coming out with another single after that. And that'll be when the record comes out, March 15th. So
March 15th. All right. So for those watching, March 15th, pay attention. It's going to be here soon.
I'm excited. I'm ready for the album right now.
Be out. Like, it's been a long process. I tracked vocals on it a year ago. So it's time for it to, be out. And that, I have to say this about the record. I can say this because it had nothing to do with this part of it, but the music of the new record is crazy. Like, it is, it's kind of unbelievable, because I was like, wouldn't it be cool to be able to get in a room together and jam like a real band? Because we don't live near each other. We never have time on the road to do it. And so the guys did. They got together in a room together in New York, and they just wrote songs. And they sent me the music, and I wrote vocals to it. And then I went to New York to record vocals. Our drummer, Jared, he engineered and produced the record. And then JR and Jared got together with the mixing process of the record. Dylan, our guitar player, shot the music videos for it. Like, he did all the album artwork for it. It's crazy. So I had the least amount of anything to do with anything. So I can say the music is killer, because I didn't write anything. I didn't write any music.
Well, it's funny that you say you didn't have anything to do with it, because a comment that you just got was one thing that you definitely have going for you, Matt, is your great diligence and incredible work ethic. And Jermaine says, the 2 singles that are out so far are absolutely lit. This album is going to smack. So,
well, there's a lot of, it covers a lot of ground on the record. It's 14 songs. So it's like,
nice.
And so much of the reason it's 14 songs is because of how effective the guys were in the same room together writing music. Like, they just kept writing songs. There are songs that are not on the record that I thought were going to be on the record. And so there's still stuff that's not, technically released that maybe we could do something with later on.
Nice.
Awesome. Well, I mean, just from the comments, I hope you can see that your music is truly connecting with people. Like they are digging it. These new songs are awesome. We love it. And
Thank you.
we appreciate you guys so much, and we appreciate you just tremendously.
I appreciate it. Thanks for taking the time to even care about talking about anything. Like it's hard for me because podcast and Zoom stuff and live streams, like it is so not what I'm about. Like it is so hard for me to do this right now. So I have to tell you, thank you for pursuing and kind of staying on top of me to have me do it, because I understand that people like it. They enjoy it. I enjoy watching stuff, but I normally like watching vocal fail videos and stuff like that. So
Well, the reason, honestly, that we do this show is because we want people to learn about you. They can listen to your music, they can love your music, but it gets more in depth when they get to hear about how you came to know Christ, how you come up with your songs. They just want to know you, and that's what we're trying to show. And especially for people out there that are like, oh, Christian rock and metal's the devil. No, listen to what these guys are saying. We want them to see your heart. That's why we do this. We don't do it to
yeah,
glorify us. We're trying to glorify God, and we're also trying to do it so they can see your heart.
yeah.
So,
Well, I appreciate it. I do. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
well, unfortunately, though, we are quickly running out of time. So, one thing that we always do for each and every one of our guests is we ask you, what can we be praying for you and for the band for?
Our schedule coming up is crazy. It is. I have a ton of acoustic things that are booked. Spoken will be out with a band that I should have mentioned earlier too is like The Protest, because they're some of the nicest human beings on earth. They fall into the category with Chaotic Resemblance, where it's like they're so nice. Something's wrong. They're so nice. But we're going out with The Protest for a while. We're going out with Disciple again. And there's a lot of travel involved with getting to those tours, on those tours, between those tours. So prayer for safety, prayer that God would provide all of our needs while we're gone, that he would take care of our families while we're gone. Safety, and for the people that come to shows, that they can come and they can leave encouraged.
All right.
Nice.
And before we get into prayer, if you could leave the Rock for Him listeners with one thing, what would you want them to know about you and about Spoken?
We know that we can't do this forever. I personally know that any moment that I have is a gift from Jesus. That's it. Whether it be at home, on the road, playing with Spoken, driving down the road, whatever it is a gift. And I know that it could be gone tomorrow. I could wake up tomorrow and not be able to speak, not be able to sing, not be able to see how to drive, any of that. And, it could be, every day could be the last, it could be it. And so I would say, don't take your days for granted. Be grateful. Know that things can be hard. They will be hard. It's not supposed to be easy, but be encouraged that God knows, and he wants what's best for you. And he wants you to know that he cares for you. And that he's enough.
Love it.
There.
Thank you for that. And I mean, we appreciate you, honestly. So I'm going to go ahead and close us out for prayer. Unless, Jeremy, you got anything else?
No, I'm good.
All right. So,
Thank you guys.
great and Heavenly Father, thank you so much for bringing Matt to us today and just giving us this short amount of time to get to know him, get to know his heart. Lord, I ask that you watch over him and the rest of the band. Lord, just give them some peace and comfort as they prepare to go into this busy season, touring with The Protest, with Disciple, with Matt's acoustic tour. Lord, just please give him peace, comfort, and give him the rest that he needs just to continue on. Lord, I ask that you keep them all safe, put that hedge of protection around them, watch over their families while they're out on the road. Lord, just give the band members peace that they know that their families are loved and cared for. Lord, I ask that you provide for them. We know how expensive travel can be right now. So just provide for them in only the way that you could. And again, we thank you so much for sending your son, Jesus Christ, to die for us on the cross. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, guys.
All right, brother. I just want to thank you once again. Like, this is awesome for a guy like me getting to talk to you. Like, you know how you said you were with Head? That's the way I am with when we have bands on. I'm like, guys that I get to listen to, I'm now getting to talk to you. Like, this is the coolest
cool.
thing ever for me. So
Well,
thank you again.
Yep.
And Jeremy, brother, you know how awesome this is. Favorite time of the week.
It is.
For those of you that are watching and listening, I just want to remind you all, you're gonna rock for him. What were you gonna say, Matt? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I was saying thank you. That's it.
Oh.
If you like what you saw today, hit the subscribe and like button down below, and don't forget to share it to all your friends. Also, leave us a comment down below. If you're gonna rock for him.